The leather chair creaked softly as I leaned back in my corner office, 50 stories above Manhattan, staring at the resume on my desk. Michael Thompson, my dear brother who'd spent the last decade telling everyone how his little sister would never amount to anything. Now his future was quite literally in my hands. My executive assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Ms. Chen, your 2 p.m. interview has arrived." I smiled, remembering Michael's last words to me at our parents' house 3 years ago. "Have fun playing businesswoman while I build a real career." That real career had just imploded spectacularly when his company went bankrupt. Now he was desperately seeking employment, unaware that most major firms in the city were subsidiaries of Chin Global Enterprises, my company. "Send him up," I replied. "And Sarah? Make sure he waits at least 20 minutes. "Of course, Ms. Chin. Shall I offer him coffee? From the regular pot?" I smirked. The regular pot was reserved for unwanted visitors, our little office joke. Executives and valued clients got the premium blend. "Perfect," I said. "And pull up the security footage from the lobby. I want to see his face when he realizes where he is." While waiting, I reviewed his application again. The irony was delicious. He'd applied for a senior VP position, touting his experience and leadership skills. The same leadership skills that had driven his previous company into the ground. My phone buzzed, a message from our HR director. "Background check complete on Michael Thompson. Multiple red flags. Proceed with interview." "Absolutely," I typed back. "This one's personal." The last time I'd seen Michael was at our parents' anniversary dinner. He'd been holding court, bragging about his executive position while pointedly asking me if I was still doing that startup thing. That startup thing had grown into a multi-billion-dollar corporation, though I'd kept my ownership private through holding companies and subsidiaries. As far as my family knew, I was still struggling to make it in the business world. The security feed from the lobby popped up on my monitor. There was Michael in his expensive suit, probably his last one, trying to project confidence as he checked in. I watched his expression change as he saw the Chin Global logo behind the reception desk. "Your sister's company?" he asked the receptionist, clearly shocked. "Miss Chin is the CEO," she replied coolly. "Please take a seat. Someone will escort you up shortly." The color drained from his face as he connected the dots. After years of dismissing my business acumen, he was about to interview with me. My phone buzzed again. "Dad, this time. Michael said he has an interview at Chin Global. Is this true?" I ignored it. "Let them stew for a while." Sarah's voice came through again. "He's quite agitated in the waiting area. Keeps checking his phone and loosening his tie." "Let him sweat," I replied. "Has he figured it out yet?" "Not entirely. He keeps asking if Alexandra Chin is related to his sister Sarah. No one's answering him. Alexandra was my professional name, the one I'd built my empire under while my family continued to underestimate little Sarah." Another message popped up, this time from Mom. "Honey, please help your brother. He really needs this job." Oh, now they wanted my help. Where was this support when I was building my company? When Michael was telling everyone I'd never succeed? The security feed showed Michael checking his reflection in the lobby windows, practicing what looked like an interview smile. If he only knew what was waiting 50 stories up. "Miss Chin." Sarah's voice again. "It's been 20 minutes. Shall I send him up?" I straightened my Chanel blazer and picked up his resume. Yes. Time to show my dear brother what success really looks like. The door to my office opened and Sarah led Michael in. His confident stride faltered as he took in the vast corner office, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Manhattan, most of which I owned. "Mr. Thompson," Sarah announced formally, "Miss Chin will see you now." Michael's eyes widened as he recognized me, his rehearsed interview smile crumbling. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" "That's Miss Chin," I corrected him, not offering my hand. "Please take a seat. We have a lot to discuss about your application." He sank into the chair across from my desk, his expensive suit suddenly looking cheap under the harsh reality of the situation. "This is impossible," he muttered. "You can't be CEO of Chin Global Enterprises?" I finished for him. "Owner of the largest private holding company in the city? The mysterious Alexandra Chin that everyone's been trying to meet." I smiled. Amazing what one can accomplish while playing businesswoman. My phone buzzed, another message from Dad. Michael just texted us. Please be reasonable. I set the phone aside. This meeting had been 10 years in the making. Let's review your application, shall we? I picked up his resume. Senior VP position. Impressive credentials. Though I notice your last company isn't listed. Why is that? Michael shifted uncomfortably. There were complications. Complications. I raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling bankruptcy due to mismanagement now? How diplomatic. You've been researching me, he accused. Of course. We do thorough background checks on all applicants. I pulled out another file. Especially ones with such interesting financial histories. His face paled as I opened the file. Those records are sealed. Nothing is sealed from me, I corrected. Not the 3 failed ventures before your last disaster. Not the investors you misled. Not even the rather creative accounting that caught the SEC's attention. That was never proven. Because the investigators were bought off, I finished. By one of my shell companies, actually. I couldn't have my dear brother's scandal reflecting badly on Chin Global. Though I did enjoy watching you brag about beating the charges at Christmas dinner last year. My phone lit up with another text, Mom, this time. He has a family to support. Speaking of family, I continued, remember Dad's retirement party? When you told everyone I was wasting my potential on a startup. Michael squirmed. Sarah, about what I said. Miss Chin, I corrected again. And yes, let's talk about what you said. All the things you said, actually. I pressed a button on my desk and a screen descended from the ceiling. I keep excellent records. Video clips began playing. Every dismissive comment, every mockery of my career, every prediction of my failure. I'd had them all recorded at various family events. Quite the greatest hits compilation, wouldn't you say? I asked as he watched himself sneer at my ambitions year after year. That's not fair, he protested weakly. Not fair. I laughed. Was it fair when you told potential investors to avoid my company? When you spread rumors about my business acumen? When you convinced Mom and Dad not to invest in my little project? My phone buzzed again, the HR director. Other companies requesting references for Michael Thompson. How should we respond? Standard protocol, I typed back. Full disclosure of bankruptcy and SEC investigation. Looking up at Michael's increasingly desperate face, I continued. You know what's interesting? Every major company you've applied to in the last month is either owned by or connected to Chin Global. Every potential job opportunity, every networking contact, every possible lifeline, all lead back to this office. The blood drained from his face as he realized the full extent of his situation. You've been blocking me? Not actively, I assured him. Just letting your record speak for itself. Though I must say, watching you gradually realize how much power your unsuccessful sister has over your future has been entertaining. Sarah appeared at the door. Miss Chin, the board is ready for your quarterly presentation. Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Thompson was just leaving. I stood up. Unless there's anything else you'd like to discuss? More predictions about my success, perhaps. Michael stood shakily. Sarah. Alexandra, please. I need this job. Like I needed your support when I was building this company? I asked quietly. Like I needed a brother who believed in me instead of constantly tearing me down? My phone lit up with meeting reminders. 3 p.m. Board presentation, Global Acquisition Strategy. 4 p.m. Investment Committee New Ventures Review. 5 p.m. Executive Committee Personnel Decisions. You know what the funny thing is? I continued. If you had shown even a fraction of support, you might be sitting on this side of the desk now. I wanted to share my success with family. But you made it very clear what you thought about my potential. I was wrong, he said quickly. I see that now. Now. I raised an eyebrow. Now that you need something from me? Now that your real career has imploded and your unsuccessful sister turns out to own half of Manhattan. My phone buzzed with another update. Our PR department. Stories about Thompson Corp bankruptcy gaining traction. Want us to issue a statement. Proceed, I typed back. Focus on the mismanagement angle. Please, Michael tried again. I'll do anything. Entry-level position, mailroom, anything. Anything. I smiled. Like I did? Working my way up while you mocked my efforts? Starting at the bottom while you dismissed my dreams. I pressed another button on my desk and his resume shredded itself in the automatic shredder. Unfortunately, Mr. Thompson, Chin Global maintains very high standards for its employees. We require qualities like integrity, judgment, and most importantly, I paused, the ability to recognize potential in others. Standing up, I gathered my papers for the board meeting. Sarah will show you out. Through the service entrance, of course. We reserve the main lobby for successful executives. As he stumbled toward the door, I called after him, "Oh, and Michael? To give my best to Mom and Dad. Tell them their unsuccessful daughter sends her regrets about missing Sunday dinner. I'll be too busy running my global corporation to attend." The door closed behind him and I watched on the security feed as he was escorted to the service elevator, his shoulders slumped in defeat. My phone buzzed one final time. "Dad again. Please reconsider. He's your brother." "Funny," I typed back. He didn't consider that when he was predicting my failure. Success, like karma, works in mysterious ways. Sarah appeared with my board presentation. "Your brother looks rather shell-shocked." "Amazing what a change in perspective can do," I replied. "Have security revoke his access credentials. If he applies again, mark his file, do not consider." "Already done," she confirmed. "And the other companies he's applied to? Let them know exactly who they're dealing with," I instructed. After all, isn't that what big sisters are for? Looking out for their brother's best interests. As I prepared for my board meeting, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving someone wrong. It's becoming the gatekeeper to everything they desperately need. Welcome to my world, brother. Success looks different from this side of the desk. Too bad you'll never see it from here. After all, as you always said, some people just aren't cut out for success. Turns out you were right about that. Just wrong about which one of us it was.
The text came while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my resort chain. Remember to pack casual clothes for the beach house this weekend. Nothing fancy, it's just family. My mother-in-law's message, dripping with her usual condescension, made me smile. If she only knew. I'm Sarah Chin, 34, owner of the Sapphire Bay Resort Group, but my in-laws had no idea. They thought I was just their son Michael's wife who worked in hospitality. I'd never corrected their assumption. Let them believe I was a hotel receptionist if they wanted to. The truth was, I'd built my company from the ground up, turning one struggling beachfront property into a luxury resort empire. 10 years ago, when I met Michael at a hotel management conference, I was already successful but preferred to keep a low profile. He worked in marketing for a mid-sized firm and was charming, kind, and seemingly different from his status-obsessed family. We fell in love, and I decided to maintain my privacy about my true position. Let them get to know me for me, I told Michael. He agreed, though I sometimes caught him squirming when his family made snide remarks about my little job. The annual family beach vacation had always been a power play for my mother-in-law, Regina. She'd rent the most expensive house at Sapphire Bay, my flagship resort, and spend the week reminding everyone that she was the one treating the family to this luxury. The fact that she was actually paying me for the privilege was a private amusement I kept to myself for 5 years. But this year was different. 2 months ago, I'd overheard Regina and my sister-in-law Amanda plotting during a family dinner. "It's time Michael traded up," Regina had said, not realizing I was approaching the kitchen. "That Jessica from his office would be perfect. Her father owns half of downtown. Sarah's sweet, but she's just not our caliber. This beach trip is our chance to show Michael the difference between class and, well, you know." I quietly stepped back, my hand finding the resort keycard in my pocket, the master key with my name and title emblazoned on it. Maybe it was time for a different kind of vacation. Friday afternoon, I arrived at the beach house ahead of everyone else, using my private access road. The staff, who knew exactly who I was but were well trained in discretion, had everything prepared according to my specifications. I changed into a simple sundress, exactly the kind Regina would consider cheap, and waited. They arrived in a convoy of luxury cars, Regina leading the way in her Mercedes SUV. Michael kissed me hello while his mother surveyed the house with her usual proprietary air. Amanda trailed behind with her husband Tom, And the new addition to their group, Jessica from Michael's office, wearing a designer swimsuit that probably cost more than Regina thought I made in a month. Sarah, dear, Regina's voice carried that familiar false sweetness. Help Maria with the luggage, won't you? She gestured to their housekeeper, who was struggling with several expensive bags. Actually, I smiled. Maria can take the afternoon off. I've arranged for butler service for the house. Regina's eyes narrowed at my presumption. And who, she asked acidly, is paying for that? Oh, don't worry about it, I replied mildly. It's taken care of. The afternoon proceeded according to Regina's obvious script. Jessica was seated next to Michael at every opportunity, while I was consistently relegated to the far end of the group. My husband, I noticed with growing disappointment, did nothing to stop it. Sarah, Regina announced during dinner on the terrace, be a dear and check why the air conditioning isn't working properly in the east wing. I set down my wine glass. I can call maintenance. No, she interrupted. You work in hospitality, surely you know how to handle these little problems. Jessica, why don't you tell Michael more about your father's new development project? I felt a familiar buzz from my phone. The resort's security team sending their nightly report. I excused myself, not that anyone besides Maria noticed, and stepped into the house. Through the window, I could see Jessica touching Michael's arm, laughing at something he'd said. My husband was beaming at the attention. The security report included camera footage from the beach house. I watched Regina and Amanda in the kitchen earlier, spiking my water glass with what appeared to be liquid laxative. How original. I typed a quick message to my head of security. Proceed with Protocol 17. When I returned to the terrace, Regina was holding court. Really, Sarah? I don't know why you insist on wearing that Target dress to dinner. We have standards here. Right, Michael? My husband shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Jessica smirked behind her wine glass. Speaking of standards, Regina continued, I've been thinking. This house really isn't big enough for everyone. Sarah, dear, perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of the budget hotels in town. This is a family gathering after all. I watched Michael, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, he stared at his plate. Honey, Mom has a point. It is getting crowded, and you'd probably be more comfortable. The doors to the terrace opened. John, my head of security, appeared with two other officers. Mrs. Chen, he addressed me formally. Is everything all right? Regina stood up, outraged. Who are you? How dare you interrupt our family dinner? Sarah, since you work here, deal with this immediately. I smiled, reaching into my purse for my master keycard and ID badge. Actually, Regina, I do need to deal with this. As owner and CEO of Sapphire Bay Resorts, I'm afraid I have to inform you that your reservation has been canceled. The silence was absolute. Michael's fork clattered to his plate. Owner? Regina whispered. Yes, I replied calmly. Owner. Of this resort and the entire chain. All 17 properties, actually. And since you violated multiple terms of your rental agreement, attempting to poison another guest, for instance, I'm exercising my right to terminate your stay. But, Amanda sputtered, you're just a hotel clerk. No, that's just what you chose to believe because it fit your prejudices. I've owned this resort chain for 12 years. I let you treat me like the help because I wanted to see who you really were. Congratulations, you showed me. I turned to my husband, who was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. Michael, I'm disappointed but not surprised by your behavior. You'll be hearing from my lawyer about the divorce proceedings. And Jessica, I addressed the now pale woman, you might want to update your resume. I just bought a controlling interest in your father's company. Your position is being eliminated in tomorrow's restructuring. Regina found her voice. You can't do this. We have a contract. The contract you never bothered to read. The one that gives me the right to evict guests for cause. John, please escort everyone out. Their belongings will be sent to whatever accommodations they can find in town. I paused. Though I should warn you, I own all the luxury properties in a 50-mile radius. You might want to try the Motel 6. You've been lying to us for years. Regina shrieked as security began clearing the terrace. No, Regina. I simply let you show me who you really were. You never bothered to ask what I actually did, never showed any interest in my work or my life. You were too busy trying to replace me with someone you thought was better suited to your social status. I watched as they were escorted to their cars, Regina still protesting, Amanda in tears, Jessica trying desperately to make calls on her phone. Michael lingered. Sarah, I didn't know. That's the problem, Michael. You didn't want to know. You were so worried about keeping your mother happy that you never stood up for your wife. Good luck with the divorce. Don't worry about a settlement. I've already transferred enough to your account to buy a small condo. Maybe your mother will let you live in her pool house. As their cars disappeared down the private drive, I turned to Maria, who was watching with wide eyes. Maria, I'd like to offer you a new position as head of housekeeping services for the resort, with full benefits and triple your current salary, of course. The woman burst into tears of joy, hugging me. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I can't believe you let them treat you that way all these years. I smiled, watching the sunset over my resort. Sometimes, Maria, the best revenge is simply letting people show you exactly who they are. Now, shall we discuss your new duties over dinner? I believe we have a lovely meal going to waste. The video went viral 3 days later. Someone, probably one of the kitchen staff, had recorded Regina's meltdown as security escorted her off my property. The clip of her screaming, "But we're FA while being walked to her Mercedes racked up millions of views. Social media had a field day with the beach house boss lady saga, particularly when someone dug up Regina's old Facebook posts bragging about treating the family to luxury vacations at Sapphire Bay. I watched the fallout from my private suite at the resort's penthouse, sipping coffee and reviewing acquisition proposals. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since that night. Calls from Regina, Michael, Amanda, their friends, their country club associates. I blocked them all. The only call I took was from Jessica's father. Mrs. Chen, he'd said, his voice carefully controlled. I believe we need to discuss the recent changes in company ownership. Mr. Bradford, I replied, we certainly do, particularly your daughter's involvement in attempting to break up my marriage. I'm sure the board would be interested in those text messages between her and my mother-in-law, plotting to seduce my husband during a company-sponsored event. The silence on his end was delicious. Now, I continued, about that merger you've been pursuing with Henderson Group. I'm prepared to make it happen, provided Jessica is relocated to your Singapore office immediately. That can be arranged. Wonderful. My lawyers will be in touch. The divorce proceedings moved quickly. Michael's lawyer nearly choked when he saw my financial disclosures, the prenup I'd insisted on, the one Regina had called unnecessary for someone of Sarah's position, proved invaluable. Michael got exactly what we'd agreed to, enough for a modest fresh start, nothing more. Regina's attempts at damage control backfired spectacularly. Her tearful interview with a local news station, claiming she'd been blindsided by her daughter-in-law's deception, prompted my PR team to release security footage of her attempting to spike my drink. The resulting headlines weren't kind. Mother-in-law's poisoning attempt exposed. Beach house drama continues. Amanda tried playing peacemaker, showing up at my corporate office unannounced. Sarah, please, she begged, Mom's a wreck. The country club is freezing her out. Her charity board asked her to step down. Can't you make this all go away? I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing plans for my newest resort acquisition. Coincidentally, the very property Regina had been bragging about booking for next year's family vacation. Make what go away, Amanda. The consequences of your actions. The truth about how you all treated me, or just the public embarrassment of being exposed. We didn't know who you were. That's exactly the point. You shouldn't have to know someone's net worth to treat them with basic respect. I turned my screen to show her the property listing. By the way, I just bought the Vista Del Mar Resort. Your mother might want to find a new venue for her annual I'm Better Than You vacation. The aftermath rippled through their social circle. Regina's carefully curated image as the family matriarch crumbled. Her friends, those same women who'd smirked at her subtle digs about her daughter-in-law's modest background, now whispered about her behind designer handbags. The irony of them doing so in my hotels wasn't lost on me. Michael attempted reconciliation exactly once. He showed up at my corporate office wearing the suit he'd bought for our wedding. I miss you, he said, standing awkwardly in front of my desk. I was wrong. I should have stood up to them. Yes, you should have. I kept my voice neutral. But you didn't, not once in 5 years. I didn't know you owned all this. If I'd known. That's the problem, Michael. You needed to know I was wealthy to treat me with respect. It should have been enough that I was your wife. He left my office with slumped shoulders, finally understanding what he'd lost. Not my money. The prenup ensured he'd never had that. But my trust, my respect, and any chance of a future together. 6 months after the beach house incident, I hosted a charity gala at my flagship resort. The event raised millions for educational scholarships for hospitality workers. Maria, now my head of housekeeping services, gave a moving speech about opportunities and second chances. Regina tried to purchase a ticket. Her payment was refunded with a note. We reserve the right to refuse service. The media coverage was extensive. Business magazines that had once dismissed me as lucky or in the right place at the right time now praised my strategic brilliance in building my empire. A famous business journal wanted to profile me for their Women in Leadership issue. Looking back, I told the interviewer, I'm almost grateful for how they treated me. It taught me valuable lessons about character, about how people behave when they think you're beneath them. I've incorporated those lessons into my company culture. Every employee, from dishwasher to executive, is treated with equal respect. The article went viral. Applications to work at my resorts tripled. I instituted a new hiring policy. Any hint of elitism or superiority in an interview was automatic disqualification. 1 year after the beach house incident, I received an invitation to Michael and Jessica's engagement party. Apparently, she'd returned from Singapore and they'd reconnected. The venue? One of my competitors' hotels, the only luxury property in the area I didn't own. I sent a gift. A framed copy of the rental agreement from that fateful beach weekend with a clause about behavior-based eviction highlighted. My note read, "Congratulations. May your new family treat each other better than your last one treated me." Regina, I heard, had sold her beach house, the one she'd spent years renovating to keep up with the Sapphire Bay aesthetic. The buyer, my company through a shell corporation. I had it converted into a retreat center for overworked hospitality employees. The transformation of my business continued. Sapphire Bay Resorts became known for more than luxury. We were celebrated for our corporate culture, our employee retention, and our zero-tolerance policy for guest harassment of staff. Maria's daughter became our first scholarship recipient, heading to Cornell's hotel management program with a full ride. When Regina's friends complained about the decline in service standards, since I'd instituted my progressive policies, I had their memberships in our loyalty program revoked. The final twist came during a routine business acquisition 2 years later. I was reviewing the purchase of a small but exclusive country club, the very one where Regina had held court for decades. Mrs. Chen, my assistant, said, "There's one small detail you should know. Mrs. Regina Wallace holds a lifetime membership." I smiled, thinking of all those years of condescension, of being treated like the help, of watching my husband fail to defend me. Please inform Mrs. Wallace that under new ownership, all memberships are subject to review. Her presence would make other members uncomfortable. I used the exact words she used about me at the beach house. The letter terminating her membership was delivered the same day she received an invitation to Michael and Jessica's wedding, at a budget hotel ballroom. Apparently, Jessica's father's new Singapore-based position had affected their circumstances more than expected. I donated Regina's membership fees to the scholarship fund. The first recipient? Maria's youngest daughter, who dreamed of owning her own hotel someday. Sometimes, sitting in my penthouse office overlooking the ocean, I think about that last family dinner at the beach house. The shock on their faces, the sudden realization that the person they'd dismissed had held the power all along. But real power, I've learned, isn't in wealth or status. It's in being true to yourself, in treating everyone with dignity regardless of their position, and in never letting anyone else define your worth. Regina still drives past the resort sometimes. I've seen her car slow down at the gates, seen her stare at the sign that bears my name. I wonder if she finally understands that her greatest mistake wasn't in underestimating my wealth. It was in underestimating my worth. The beach house where it all ended is now my favorite private retreat. I've kept one thing from that last dinner, the wine glass Regina tried to spike. It sits in a display case in my office, a reminder that success isn't just about making money. It's about maintaining your dignity while letting others reveal their true character. Last week, I received a letter from Michael. Inside was an invitation to his and Jessica's wedding. along with a handwritten note. I know you won't come, but I wanted you to see what rock bottom looks like. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I sent back a response on Sapphire Bay letterhead. Congratulations. I've booked you the honeymoon suite at our Singapore property. Consider it my wedding gift, and a reminder that class has nothing to do with money. The suite, of course, didn't exist, but I'm sure they'll figure that out when they get there. After all, some lessons are best learned the hard way.
The annual Winters family dinner was in full swing at my parents' mansion, where success was measured in corner offices and company titles. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, listening to my family brag about their roles in Winters Industries, the company my grandfather had built. Another record quarter, my brother James announced, straightening his CFO nameplate on his suit. Though some of us actually had to show up to the office to make it happen. The dig was aimed at me, of course. The daughter who couldn't handle corporate life and worked from home. The disappointment who'd walked away from her VP position 3 years ago. Emily, dear, my mother's voice dripped with fake concern. Still doing that? What do you call it? Remote consulting. Something like that, I replied softly, checking my phone under the table. Another message from my team. Final paperwork ready for signing. Operation Winter Storm is go. You know, my father added, swirling his expensive scotch. There's still a position waiting for you at Winters if you ever decide to rejoin the real business world. Even in HR or marketing. My sister-in-law Charlotte snickered. Though you'd have to actually come to the office. And dress properly. She gestured at my simple black sweater and slacks, so different from her designer outfit. If they only knew I was wearing the same outfit I'd worn while negotiating the secret purchase of their company's controlling shares. I'm comfortable working from home, I said mildly. It suits my style. Style? James laughed. Running some little online business is hardly style, sis. While you're playing entrepreneur, we're running a billion-dollar company. I bit back a smile, thinking of the documents waiting for my signature. Documents that would make me the owner of that billion-dollar company. How much do remote consultants make these days? Charlotte asked with exaggerated curiosity. Enough to afford a real office? I manage, I replied, thinking of my penthouse office overlooking the city, the one they'd never seen because they'd never bothered to ask what I actually did. My phone buzzed again. Stock purchase complete. Ready for final phase. Well, my father raised his glass. Here's to Winters Industries, a real company run by real executives who understand the value of tradition and proper business practices. The same traditions that had made the company vulnerable to a silent takeover. The same practices that had left gaps in their security wide enough for a patient investor to slip through. Speaking of the company, James started, we should discuss the upcoming board meeting. The one Emily never attends. Because she's not a real executive anymore, Charlotte finished with a smirk. Just a, what did you call it? Remote worker. My phone lit up with an urgent message. Ms. Winters, the transfer is complete. You now own 51% of Winters Industries. Congratulations. I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. 3 years of careful planning, of letting them think I'd failed in corporate life, of building my empire in secret while they mocked my choices. Actually, I said quietly, I think I'll attend this board meeting. The table went silent. My father's Scotch glass froze halfway to his lips. You. James sputtered. But you're not even in the company anymore. About that. I pulled out my tablet, pulling up the documents that had just been finalized. I think you'll find things have changed. What do you mean? My father demanded. Maybe we should discuss the fact that Shadow Peak Ventures just acquired a controlling interest in Winters Industries, I said calmly. Or should I say my company just acquired a controlling interest? The silence that followed was absolutely perfect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's buying the empire they thought you couldn't handle. And I was just getting started. The chaos that erupted at the dinner table was spectacular. James knocked over his wine glass, Charlotte's perfectly maintained facade cracked, and my father's face turned an interesting shade of purple. What do you mean your company? He demanded, his voice shaking. Shadow Peak Ventures is a multi-billion-dollar investment firm. Yes, I agreed calmly. The one I built while you all thought I was playing entrepreneur from home. My mother grabbed her pearls. a nervous habit from her socialite days. But that's impossible. You've been doing nothing for 3 years. Actually, I pulled up more documents on my tablet. I've been quite busy. Building an investment empire, acquiring undervalued companies, and watching Winters Industries make exactly the mistakes I knew you'd make. James stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. This is a joke. Has to be. Shadow Peak is run by E.W. Stone. High professional name, I smiled. Did none of you ever wonder what these stood for? Emily Winters Stone. I took Mom's maiden name for business. Didn't want any family connections clouding my success. My phone buzzed again. Legal team ready to proceed with management changes. Charlotte's designer heel tapped nervously against the marble floor. But you work from home. In sweatpants. You missed the last 3 charity galas. Because I was in Tokyo closing a $1 billion deal, I replied. Amazing how much work you can get done when you're not worried about being seen at the right social events. Daddy, James turned to our father desperately, do something. She can't just take over. My father was staring at his phone, no doubt seeing the flood of urgent messages from the board. It's legal, he whispered. She really did it. She bought us out right under our noses. While you were all laughing about my little online business, I added, I was building something bigger than Winters Industries could ever be. Shadow Peak Ventures owns companies across 3 continents. Winters is just the latest acquisition. But why? My mother asked, her voice small. Why didn't you tell us? I leaned back, remembering all the family dinners where they belittled my choices, all the snide remarks about working from home, all the times they dismissed my success because it didn't fit their corporate mold. Because, Mom, you never asked. You were all too busy assuming I'd failed to notice I was succeeding. Too focused on corner offices and designer suits to see that real power doesn't need to show off. My phone lit up with another message. Board members requesting emergency meeting. Rumors of management changes causing panic. Now, I stood up, smoothing my simple black sweater. I have a company to run. Several, actually. The board meeting tomorrow should be interesting. You can't just walk in and take over. James protested. I'm the CFO. For now, I replied softly. Though you might want to review your performance records. Shadow Peak has a strict policy about merit-based positions. No more promotions just because of your last name. Charlotte's face crumpled. But the company parties, the social events, our positions, will all be evaluated based on actual business value, I finished. Amazing how much money you save when you cut out unnecessary executive perks. My father finally found his voice again. Emily, please. We can discuss this as family. Family. I raised an eyebrow. Like how you discuss my career choices. Or how about when you told the board I couldn't handle corporate life? We were trying to help, my mother protested. No, I corrected her gently. You were trying to control. To force success to look the way you wanted it to look. Well, guess what? Success doesn't need designer labels or corner offices. Sometimes it works from home in sweatpants, building an empire while you're not watching. I gathered my things, preparing to leave the dinner party I'd just demolished. Oh, and James? About those record quarters you were bragging about. Wait until you see what happens when someone who actually understands modern business takes over. The silence that followed me out was sweeter than any dessert they could have served. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's buying the company they thought you couldn't handle and running it better than they ever could. And I was going to enjoy every minute of it, working from home in my sweatpants, of course. The next morning, I walked into Winters Industries headquarters for the first time in 3 years. The security guard did a double take. They were used to the failed daughter skulking past in shame during mandatory family events, not striding in with purpose. Ms. Winters, he stammered. You're not on the approved list. Check again, I smiled, handing him my new ID. Under CO. The elevator ride to the executive floor was filled with whispers. Word had spread fast about Shadow Peak's takeover, but few had connected it to the daughter who couldn't handle corporate life. I stepped into the boardroom exactly 3 minutes before the emergency meeting. James was already there, furiously whispering with his allies. Charlotte was stressed, scrolling through her phone, probably checking her stock options. My father sat at the head of the table, his chair for the past 30 years. Good morning, I said quietly. The room fell silent. Board members who dismissed me for years suddenly couldn't look away. You can't sit there, James blurted as I approached our father's chair. That's the CEO's seat. Exactly. I placed my laptop on the table. Dad, I believe that's my chair now. The look on his face as he stood up, as if his whole world was shifting, almost made the past 3 years of underestimation worth it. Now, I opened my laptop. Let's discuss the changes Shadow Peak will be implementing. Changes. Charlotte's voice cracked. What changes? I pulled up the first slide of my presentation, Winters Industries Restructuring Plan. First, I began, we'll be conducting a complete audit of all executive positions. Performance reviews, contribution assessments, merit evaluations. No exceptions. James's face paled. But we're family. Funny how that word only matters when you're afraid of losing something, I noted. Was I family when you told the board I was emotionally unsuited for executive work? My phone buzzed, another message from Shadow Peak. Additional acquisitions ready for review soon. Second, I continued, all executive perks will be immediately suspended pending review. That includes the private jets, the business development, spa retreats, and yes, Charlotte, the monthly shopping allowance. She actually gasped. Third, we'll be implementing a modern work structure, including, I paused for effect, remote work options for all qualified employees. But that's not how business is done, my father protested. No, I corrected, that's not how you did business. While you were all clinging to outdated traditions, I built a global company without ever needing a corner office. Turns out success doesn't require a designer suit and a mahogany desk. I pulled up the next slide, Shadow Peak's portfolio. The room went quiet as the numbers appeared. That's billions, one board member whispered. All built from my home office, I confirmed. The one you all mocked. Amazing what you can accomplish when you're focused on results instead of appearances. My father slumped in his new non-CEO chair. Why didn't you tell us? All this time. Would you have listened? I asked quietly. Or would you have tried to force me to do it your way? Sometimes the best path to success is letting people underestimate you until it's too late. My phone lit up again. Global partners notified of management change. Stock up 30%. Now, I stood up, smoothing my simple black sweater. I have an empire to run. Those who want to be part of Winters Industries' future can adapt to our new merit-based culture. Those who don't. I glanced at James and Charlotte. Will find their severance packages generous. As I walked out of the boardroom, my boardroom now, I couldn't help but add one final touch. Oh, and James, the coffee machine in the break room needs refilling. Since you might need to learn some new skills. The look on his face was priceless. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just taking over the family empire. It's showing them that success doesn't need their approval to change the world. And I did it all from my home office in comfortable clothes, building something bigger than their traditions could ever imagine. Because sometimes, the biggest power move is letting them think you've failed until you own their definition of success. The memory of that dinner still burns even 5 years later. The way my mother's perfectly manicured fingers drummed against our mahogany dining table, her diamond rings catching the light as she delivered her verdict on my life choices. A startup tech company? She'd scoffed. With your trust fund? Madison, darling, you'll never be anybody going down this path. I can still see my sister Catherine's smirk across the table, hear my father's heavy sigh of disappointment. The Hunter family name meant something in Boston's elite circles. It meant country clubs and charity galas, not coding in a garage with 2 college dropouts. We're cutting off your trust fund, Dad had announced. Maybe that will help you see reason. I'd looked around that opulent dining room at the faces of my family who measured worth in old money and social connections, and made a decision that would change everything. Keep it, I'd said, standing up. Keep all of it. That was the last time I'd eaten dinner in that house. The last time I'd touched my trust fund. The last time I'd been Madison Hunter, disappointing daughter, instead of who I am today. 5 years later, I sat in my penthouse office watching my company's stock ticker climb. Hunter Technologies had just revolutionized cybersecurity with an AI-driven platform that made every competitor obsolete. Major tech companies were scrambling to license our software. The IPO had made headlines. Ms. Hunter. My assistant Julia's voice came through the intercom. There's a situation you should be aware of. Go on. Your family is stranded at Logan International. Some sort of private aviation fuel shortage. All charter flights are grounded and commercial flights are booked solid due to the tech conference. I leaned back in my chair, a smile playing at my lips. The tech conference, my tech conference where I was scheduled to deliver the keynote speech tomorrow in Silicon Valley. They're trying to reach you, Julia continued. Your sisters called 6 times. Of course they were. The annual Hunter Family Foundation Gala was tomorrow night in San Francisco. The social event of the season. They couldn't possibly miss it. Their reputation would never recover. My phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Maddie, please. We know you have a private jet. We need to get to SF. Family emergency. The emergency being their social standing, no doubt. I pulled up the tracking app for my Gulfstream G650. The jet I'd bought not for luxury but because time was money in tech and I needed to be anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. The jet that was, at this very moment, fueled and ready at my private hangar. Another text from Mom. Madison, darling, surely we can put the past behind us. The gala is crucial for the family name. I thought about that dinner 5 years ago. About the trust fund I'd walked away from. About the nights I'd spent sleeping on an office floor while coding, surviving on ramen and determination. About the investors who'd believed in me when my own family wouldn't. Julia, I called through the intercom. Send a car to my hangar. I'll be flying to San Francisco early. And your family? I typed out a response to my mother's text. No bodies don't own planes. Then I gathered my things, including my keynote speech, the one announcing Hunter Technologies' newest innovation, a breakthrough that would double our already soaring stock price. Should I tell them you're refusing to help? Julia asked. No, I smiled, heading for the elevator. Let them figure it out when they see my jet take off without them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't saying no. It's showing them exactly what they said no to. In the car to the hangar, I watched Boston's skyline slide past. Somewhere in that city, my family was probably still at the airport, watching their carefully curated social status crumble. Meanwhile, I had a speech to deliver, one that would cement my place in tech history. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd called me a nobody for choosing tech over tradition. Now I was worth more than the entire Hunter family fortune combined. My phone buzzed again. Dad, this time. Madison, this is childish. We need that plane. I turned off my phone as we pulled up to my private hangar. The Gulfstream gleamed under the lights, my company's logo emblazoned on its tail. Sometimes being called a nobody is the best motivation to become somebody unforgettable. The Gulfstream climbed through the clouds, leaving Boston and my stranded family far behind. I smiled, thinking of them watching my jet take off, knowing exactly who was aboard. Ms. Hunter, the pilot's voice came through the intercom. Your sister is trying to contact the tower. She's claiming there's been a mistake. No mistake, James, I replied, sipping my champagne. Just karma. My phone had exploded with notifications. Text messages, voicemails, even emails from extended family members I hadn't heard from in years. The Hunter family network was in full panic mode. I opened a particularly entertaining text from Catherine. Do you have any idea what you're doing? The governor will be at the gala. The senator's wife is counting on Mom's donation announcement. Another from my cousin Elizabeth. Your mother is in tears. How could you be so cruel? I pulled up the video feed from 5 years ago, the one my startup co-founder had recorded secretly during our first major breakthrough. There I was, sleeping on a worn office couch, surrounded by empty coffee cups and code printouts. That same night, my family had been at the country club, telling everyone how I'd lost my way. My laptop pinged with a news alert. Hunter Technologies CEO to make groundbreaking announcement at Tech Summit. Below it, a society page headline. Hunter family expected to make record donation at annual gala. Will they show? The contrast made me laugh. Miss Hunter, Julia's voice came through my secure line. Your father's lawyer is threatening legal action over the jet. He claims it was purchased with family money. Send him the documentation, I replied. Every penny came from my first software patent, the one they said would never work. I opened my keynote presentation, refining the details. Tomorrow I would announce Hunter Technologies' new quantum encryption protocol, technology that would revolutionize digital security. Our stock would skyrocket. The tech world would be transformed. And my family would miss their precious gala. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Madison. My mother's voice, tight with controlled fury. You've made your point. Whatever you want, board positions, public apologies, doubled inheritance, it's yours. Just send the jet back. I looked out the window at the sunset painting the clouds gold. You still don't get it, do you? I don't want anything from you. I never did. I just wanted you to believe in me. We were protecting you, she exploded. Tech startups fail every day. The Hunter name. We'll be just fine, I interrupted. In fact, after tomorrow it'll be better than ever. Just not the way you planned. I hung up as another news alert flashed. Hunter Technologies stock hits record high on speculation of new security protocol. Below it was a society column. Hunter family absence at gala raises questions. Sources say private aviation issues to blame. Sometimes success is the sweetest revenge. But making them watch that success from a crowded airport terminal? That's just the cherry on top. I settled back in my leather seat, watching the clouds pass beneath my private jet, the very symbol of success they'd said I'd never achieve. In less than 12 hours I would change the tech world forever. And somewhere in Boston my family was learning the hard way that sometimes the biggest somebody is the person you called a nobody. The jet turned west, carrying me toward my destiny while leaving their social catastrophe in my wake. Sometimes karma flies at 45,000 feet. The next morning I stood backstage at the Tech Summit watching the live feed from the Hunter family gala venue. Empty tables, confused caterers, and a lot of influential people wondering where their hosts were. My phone showed missed calls from every member of my family, but I was focused on something else. The Wall Street Journal headline that had just gone live. Hunter Technologies unveils revolutionary quantum encryption. Stock soars 300%. 5 minutes, Ms. Hunter, a stagehand called out. I straightened my designer suit, not the kind my mother would have chosen, but one that screamed successful tech suit. The conference hall was packed with industry leaders, investors, and media. Every major network was carrying this live. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Catherine. They're calling it the Hunter family humiliation. Mom's social standing is ruined. Are you happy now? I stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause, thinking about happiness, about success, about redemption. Good morning, I began, my voice strong. 5 years ago someone told me I'd never be anybody. Today, I'm here to show you the future of digital security. The presentation was flawless. The technology revolutionary. When I finished, the standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. Backstage, Julia handed me a phone. Your father's watching CNBC. They're calling you the next Steve Jobs. He'd like to talk. I took the phone. Hello, Dad. Madison. His voice was different now, smaller, uncertain. We were wrong. Yes, I said simply. You were. The gala, our reputation. Will survive, I cut him off. The Hunter name is stronger than ever, just not the way you planned. I hung up and looked at Julia. Send my jet to Boston. Really? She asked, surprised. Yes, I smiled. But take your time. Maybe do a maintenance check first. Sometimes being somebody means being the bigger person. Eventually. The next day's headlines told the whole story. Tech genius Madison Hunter revolutionizes cybersecurity. Hunter Technologies CEO becomes youngest self-made billionaire. Hunter family missing from own gala as daughter makes tech history. I kept a framed copy of my mother's text from that airport. Madison, darling, we need your jet. Below it, my reply. Nobodies don't own planes. Sometimes the best success story is the one nobody saw coming. Especially the ones who called you nobody in the first place. In my office overlooking Silicon Valley, I raised a glass to the view. To the nobody who became somebody. To the daughter who proved them all wrong. And to the private jet that taught my family the most expensive lesson of all. Never underestimate the person you call nobody. Because sometimes that nobody might just become the somebody you desperately need. A week later, I sat in my Silicon Valley office watching the financial news. Hunter Technologies stock had stabilized at 4 times its previous value. My net worth had crossed $12 billion, making me one of the youngest self-made billionaires in history. A soft knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. Julia entered, looking uncertain. Your mother and sister are in the lobby, she said. They flew commercial. I allowed myself a small smile. Send them up. Minutes later, they walked in, my mother's perfect composure slightly ruffled from flying economy, Catherine's designer outfit wrinkled from airport seating. Both looked uncomfortable in a way I'd never seen before. Madison, Mom began, then stopped. For the first time in my life, she seemed at a loss for words. The gala was rescheduled, Catherine blurted out. Everyone's talking about how the Hunter family produced a tech genius. Society pages are calling us visionaries for encouraging your unconventional path. I leaned back in my chair. How convenient. Darling, Mom tried again. We were wrong. So terribly wrong. When I saw you on that stage announcing your breakthrough, you weren't just somebody. You were extraordinary. Now you see it, I said quietly. 5 years too late. We want to make it right, Catherine added. Family should stick together. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the empire I'd built. You know what I learned from being called a nobody? That true worth isn't in a trust fund or social standing. It's in believing in yourself when no one else does. Please, Mom whispered. Give us a chance to be part of your life again. I turned back to them. On one condition. Anything, they said in unison. The Hunter Family Foundation, I said. I want to repurpose it. Instead of galas and social climbing, it will fund tech education for underprivileged kids. Kids who might be called nobody by people like us. Mom hesitated only a moment before nodding. Of course. It's your vision now. And one more thing, I added, pressing a button on my desk. Julia entered with 3 folders. What's this? Catherine asked. Your economy tickets back to Boston, I said, then smiled. Just kidding. It's the paperwork to establish the Hunter Innovation Scholarship. Because sometimes the next somebody is just waiting for a chance to prove the world wrong. They both teared up, and for the first time in 5 years I let them hug me. Later that evening, as my jet carried them back to Boston, yes, I relented, I added a new frame to my wall. Next to my mother's desperate text and my "Nobodies don't own planes" response, I placed a new message.